The Mine Emergency Command Center is based on the Standardized Incident Command System, which has been adopted by fire departments, search and rescue organizations, and other government agencies. The Command Center establishes a common framework and practical procedures for controlling all aspects of a mine emergency. When mine management developed their emergency response plan, they also pre-selected an area that could be used as a command center should a mine emergency occur. The training room in the mine office building was selected because it could fulfill the following requirements. It is secure against unauthorized entry. It is close to the mine rescue team staging area for access to the teams. It can accommodate personnel and equipment. It is isolated from outside interference. The command center is usually comprised of mine management personnel, federal and state officials, and representatives of labor if available. Mine management would often include the mine superintendent, mine foreman, chief electrician, and safety director. These 4 individuals would know all aspects of the mine, including particulars about travel ways and access ways, equipment availability, personnel availability, and locations of emergency equipment. Mine management will also designate an employee to maintain a log of the command center activity. Maps of the mine will also be needed for planning steps of the operation, documenting exploration and findings, and maintaining locations of fresh air bases and mine rescue and firefighting teams.
Mike, how about sitting down and giving us a briefing on everything that's taken place so far?
Yes, sir. Okay, 8:15. CO sensor 21 on number 5 belt went off, and I called Bill Jackson, asked him to check it out. At 8:18, 20 and 22 also went off along the same belt. So at 8:19, I paged 1, 2, and 3 sections to call the control room. Bill called me back about 8:20, reported he had smoke and a fire in by the drive and to evacuate everyone. At 8:22, I tried to contact the sections, told them to evacuate. I got hold of 1 and 2. I got no answer from number 3 section. At 8:25, I called Tom Smith out of the supply house to come to the control room, asked him to start calling names on the emergency response list in order. He told them what we knew so far. At 8:28, I still had not gotten an answer from number 3 section. I had activated the tracking system, but I got no responses from number 3 section area on the tracking system. At 8:37, I spoke with Mr. Dawson from MSHA. He issued a verbal 103J over the phone. I told him we would like to keep fighting the fire underground. We had 3 men down there doing that and monitoring the intake escapeway. He gave me verbal permission to continue with that. He said to evacuate everyone else. I told him we had already started the evacuation. About 8:50, number 1 and 2 section crews came out, and I got a report from the 3 belt men on the number 2 belt that they were on the way out. I've got a response from both fire bosses who are in the returns, and they are also on the way out, should be out in the next few minutes. At 8:55, Bill called out again, said he and his 2 men were still fighting the fire. I still had not gotten an answer from number 3 section and no response on the tracker system. At this time, we apparently have 3 men unaccounted for.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, Mike, is anyone monitoring the gases at the fan?
Yes, Tony, I got Jimmy, the surface supply man. He's monitoring the fan every 5 minutes. He's reported that so far he does not have any CO methane coming out of the fan.
Tony, if you would, go downstairs. We've got 2 fire bosses coming out. We need you to debrief them and find out everything that they know about the conditions up on the section from that fire boss. We've got some belt examiners that were working up there. Find out what all they know about the fire, get some idea about the kind of supplies that we're going to need to handle the fire, and make sure that we've got communication to all the people up there and that we're able to communicate with everything that's going on.
It is important to debrief all personnel who were in the mine when the accident occurred. They may have information that will be important to addressing the situation and helping to determine what approaches to take.
Good job, Mike. If you would, keep monitoring the carbon monoxide levels that's coming off the mine-wide monitoring system, and give us any update, particularly if they're in that return, if there's any changes that we need to be concerned about.
Okay, sir.
let us know immediately, particularly for any emergency conditions, and that's elevated methane levels or elevated carbon monoxide levels.
Okay, sir.
Pete, Dave, boy, am I glad you're here. Pete, I need you to notify all the rescue teams that we have for our company to start coming here for a problem, particularly the ones that have some fire brigade training. How about make arrangements with the neighboring companies, alert them that we've got a problem here. Don't go into a lot of detail, but let them know that we're probably going to need their rescue teams, and try to set up a schedule and stuff for those rescue teams, because we don't need everyone here at the same time. We need them scheduled over the 3 shifts. We're going to need to do a briefing and debriefing of those rescue teams as they arrive, and have lodging for them, put them in some space. Particularly, that should be near a staging area. We're going to need lots of maps and supplies to be able to make maps and to be able to develop plans and stuff like that. If you would make arrangements, make sure that all occurs. I need you to be the rescue team coordinator, and if necessary, handle the scheduling for the rescue teams, and you're going to be that as long as we're here. Now, make sure that you start aligning for a backup for you, because we don't need you working 24 hours shifts either. Dave, if you would contact the prearranged sites, make sure we've got something set up for the family and the press or the media. Start notifying family members that we've had an accident, that we're going to do some briefings for them. Make sure the sheriff's office and the state police are controlling the traffic patterns out here. We don't want a lot of sightseers, and they're going to start coming out of the woods. So make sure we've got security set up for this mine site. Start notifying the family members, again, of this accident. We've got 3 unaccounted for miners. Develop a phone list, and we need to know on that phone list their phone numbers, active phone numbers, and who all needs to be contacted. Now, as they, when we start this notification, let them know that we have a site set up for them to come to, and we're going to come there and do direct briefings with those family members. Make sure our briefings always take place that the family members know first before we do the media briefing. On the media briefing, make sure we've got a site set up for them. We've got phone access for them, internet access for them, and make sure that we get some maps and stuff set down for those sites. I'm planning on handing them out. I don't want a map of the whole mine. I want a map of that particular site prepared, and let's do a briefing for them. And then regularly on a pattern, once we know more about it, we're going to come down regularly and do a briefing update for the family and for the media.
The superintendent has begun the organization and direction of the command center. Although it did take a few minutes to designate the required task, it was work that was needed to be done and will pay off later. While these tasks were performed by the person in charge, the remainder of the team begins planning and directing the firefighting and rescue operation. The team now plans how to approach the continuing firefighting operation and what steps to take to begin searching for the missing miners. They begin to write a plan of how the situation will be approached. Plans can either be handwritten or typed on the computer and printed. Plans shall include the number of the plan, the date and time the plan was written, the detailed text of what actions are to be taken and by whom, and the approval lines for signatures of MSHA, state, and a representative of miners if available. The specifics of the plan stating the actions to be taken should be written clearly and concisely, which will allow for fewer questions by approving persons and provide specific instructions to persons assigned to perform the actions. For example, a well-written plan will specify who will do the action, how and where they will travel, and what specific action they will perform. A mine rescue team will travel by track entry to the power borehole at Crosscut 120 to extend a sampling tube into the number 1 return entry at Crosscut 124 for the purpose of drawing samples from the return to the surface remotely. Plans should be written for all actions to be taken, regardless of how minor. This will ensure a complete and accurate record of what actions were taken, define precisely what was done to mitigate the situation, provide good guidance to mine rescue teams and workers, and provide accurate documentation to the investigative team. MSHA and state personnel arrive at the mine and enter the command center. They're briefed on what is known at the time and what actions are being performed underground. The action plan that the team has been working on is also presented. MSHA representatives will have a procedure to follow concerning issuing orders and the plan approval process. Your individual state agency may also have procedures to follow. You should research these procedures and be familiar with what the state agency requires.
We've been working on a plan. We'd like to discuss it with you because we all need to, get an approval going in order to facilitate rescuing people down there. We've got 3 missing miners, and we want to try to get in there right quick and try to find out, the status of those miners. The plan that we have put in place, we want to send 6 miners that are part of our fire brigade team and that know how to fight fires. They've been trained, and we want to send them to the number 5 belt drive. And then from there, they're going to start establishing a water line up through there with outlets on it. They're going to take with them additional fire hoses, nozzles, a foam generator, and some sampling equipment. We'd like to establish, again, water outlets along here in order to try to fight the fire, and they're going to approach it from this entry right here.
Kyle, why don't you consider establishing yourself a fresh air base, good location out by the fire. We need to set up some remote sampling in those return adjacent to that fire also.
That's a good idea. How about we send a backup team in to establish a fresh air base, and we'll send the very first team in under apparatus and try to take a sampling line over here to the immediate return where we can draw samples remotely from that location. That way we won't be exposing anyone in the future, and we'll pump those samples to a location. Let's go about 2 crosscuts out by this belt drive, or 3 crosscuts. We've got a really good location off our main line track there. We can establish communications very easily there. If we need to pull them out, we can get them out in a hurry at that location. Let's put this in a plan. Let's call this plan number 2, and let's take plan number 1 that we had already had established. Let's say rejected for modification. Would that be okay with the state?
I agree with it.
While you change the plan, we'll write the 103J order, and then we'll modify it to a 103K order.
Good deal.
The actions taken can improve safety for those underground.
This is Danny, our labor representative. He represents the miners here at this mine. Danny, we've had a fire up here on this location. We've been developing a plan to address the situation. We currently have 3 miners fighting the fire up there with a foreman, and we're talking about developing a fresh air base, and we've developed a plan that we've all agreed to so far in order to try to support the work that's going on up there, fight the fire and find the 3 missing miners. Okay. If you would, you got copies?
I do. This is our tentative number 2 plan for you to review.
If you would.
You agree with it?
Danny, if you would review the plan, and then all of us are going to sign acknowledging that this plan.
Guys, this looks good. If the state and our labor rep agree, we'll sign and let you get to work.
I agree with it.
Okay. You reviewed it?
Yes, sir.
Is it everything okay with you?
Everything's okay.
Okay. I've signed my copy. How about here? If you all would, if you'd keep your copies for part of your record, and then we'll make a copy with everyone's signature for the official record.
The team has exhibited how working together and utilizing everyone's experience can improve the actions to be taken, while improving safety for those underground.
Okay, guys, that's the plan. If any of you have any questions?
Yes, do we have maps to take with us, and what if we can't get into returns because of heat?
Okay, I have maps made up for the rescue teams and the fire brigades. And I'd like for you to mark those things up as accurately as possible. Everywhere you go, everything that you find underground, and return them to me when you reach the surface, and we will go over it during the debriefing. Also, remember that the safety of our team comes first. If you run into a situation that you deem that is unsafe, you stop at that point, you contact the command center, and we will make adjustments outside. Do not proceed until the command center is notified, though.
And if you run into a door that's too hot to go through, or you can't get to that location, stop, call outside immediately, let the command center know so that we can be making plans to address the issue.
Any other questions? Guys, if y'all don't have any questions, let's go to it. We have rides at the portal. I need you to notify us as quick as you reach the fresh air base location, and when you get it established, we need to know it.
If there are no questions, he'll give each one of you a map. Get yourself familiar with it.
All right, guys, let's get them on. Let's get our equipment ready. Make sure you got cap lamps and spotters and radios.
You know, I thought that briefing session went really well.
It did.
They seemed to get what it is that you were trying to convey to them about the plan. They understood about how important it was that if they run into a problem,
Yes.
they have the ability to stop immediately and to contact us at the fresh air base, or not at the command center, to let us know that there's a hazard up there. You know, something we forgot up there.
The exact location of the refuge chamber.
Refuge chamber, and also there's a cache storage of SCSRs up there.
Yes.
And if they were to need them themselves, we should have pointed out exactly where that is.
Absolutely.
Next time, let's make sure to locate that on the map that we pass out to them.
Okay.
Hey, how's our staging for the next plan doing?
Okay, the teams are on their way. They've been briefed. They have their equipment. I will post the teams that are underground, the teams that are on backup, the other teams that are either stationed at a hotel or on their way. We have 15 teams mobilized. We've got 2 underground. We've got 6 more on site. We've got 7 more standing by at their stations. We've got more foam on the way from the supply house. We've got the roads secured by the police. We've got facilities available for the families and the media. And I'll let you know when they arrive.
You know, I'm sitting here trying to look ahead for the next staging that we're going to be doing. We're probably going to make it up on that section this time. We need to, on our maps, make sure we've got some more up-to-date maps. On our next maps and stuff, we need to locate the refuge chamber and the cache of storage of the self-contained self-rescuers. That way, if they need to know where they are or have need of them, they can use them. And also, we want them to check that self-rescuer or the refuge chamber.
Sure.
Make sure no one's made it there.
Sure.
I want to thank you for the job you're doing. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And thanks again.
The planning situation needs to be focused totally on the problem at hand. All entries need to address the problem and not to perform other work which does not address the issues. For example, Management Command may want to send pumpers into another area of the mine to start pumps to ensure that an air course remains open. This would be to maintain adequate and proper ventilation throughout the mine and mitigate safety concerns about reduced airflow. This would probably be an acceptable plan to submit. However, if Command wanted to send pumpers to another area to pump water so that production could resume faster when the situation is resolved, this would be unacceptable because it's not focusing on the situation being addressed, which is fighting the fire and rescuing the miners. Plans of this type should be avoided, and only those dealing with solving the problem need to be developed and submitted. There may be instances when a plan or portions of a plan may be rejected by the agencies because of concern or safety factors. When this happens, it's important to not let the operation come to a standstill. A plan may have been written too vague or with too many options to be approved. The agencies may also determine that the plan does not focus on addressing the problem. The plan may also expose teams to dangers from fire, explosion, gases, or other dangers that have not been taken into consideration. Often, reviewing the plan proposal with the agencies in advance prevents rejection for these types of items. Management in the command center should communicate with the concerned party to determine what actions or plan changes would satisfy their concerns and make them more comfortable. Items such as changing the number of persons entering, altering their routes of travel, advancing fresh air bases, or establishing additional gas sampling stations may ease concerns and allow for work or exploration to continue. Sometimes safety factors on mine gases may be the concern, especially if there are indicators of fire and methane levels that are raising or at an elevated level. These may indicate reduced safety for the rescue teams and would require more complicated resolutions. Inert gases such as nitrogen or carbon dioxide may have to be injected into the area to minimize the possibility of an explosion by reducing the methane. Regardless of the changes needed, the most important factor is to maintain an open channel of communication between all parties in the command center so that the issues can be resolved. Remember that everyone in the command center has to answer and communicate to higher authorities at their headquarters office. Persons at all levels of authority will be providing oversight and input, and maintaining good communications and providing good information will alleviate many of the concerns that arise.
Command Center?
Yes, Captain, this is Kyle.
This is Team Captain of the number 1 team. We're at the location to establish the number 1 fresh air base underground. As soon as we get that base established, we'll let you know.
It is critical that good communications be made. The team should notify the command center of actions taken and the process of complying with the plans.
Command Center?
Yes, Captain, what do you have?
Look, after we've explored these areas down here, the number 1 entry is a place we need to move the line. There's only minimal airflow in number 2. We think it'd be better readings if we move the line up into number 1 instead of number 2. We got CO at 500 parts per million there. What do you think we should do on this?
Okay, let me run it by the command team and let's see what they think. The captain tells me that most of the airflow is actually taking place in the number 1 entry, not the number 2 entry. In the plan that we have developed, we were actually establishing a sampling location in number 2 entry. He's asking permission to move that over to the number 1 entry. The carbon monoxide level is up to 500 parts per million in that location. The major flow of air is in that location there, and while he was there, instead of establishing that point in the number 2 entry, he's asking permission to move it over to number 1 entry. I want it run by the command center, the team, make sure that you're in concurrence with that. I think it's a perfectly acceptable plan and a better plan. It'll give us better readings, faster, and be safer for the team down there to be monitoring for that. And then what I'll do is I'll direct us, my clerk, to develop a new plan, and we'll get rid of the old plan. We'll reflect those changes that we're going to move that sampling location from the number 2 entry to the number 1 entry, establish it there, and then we'll bring it in and we'll all concur to that as a final step. But while he's there and establishing it, it'd be better off now to do what the team says and follow that advice. Do you have any problem with that?
Sounds good to me.
No, I have no problem. I agree with that.
Okay, I'm going to go get back in touch with him and tell him to go ahead and do that. Number 1, my rescue team. Number 1, my rescue team.
Okay.
I have talked it over and discussed it with the command center group. Everyone concurs that that is a better location. We're giving you permission to establish the sampling location in number 1 entry. Go ahead and move it, and then we'll take care of the paperwork out here. But we're giving you permission to go ahead and make that change right now.
Okay, all right, we're going to take the team, we're going to move it up into number 1 instead of number 2.
You have permission.
We'll get back with you.
If you would, develop a new plan, reflect those changes. The sampling location needs to change from the number 2 entry over to the number 1 entry, and let that be the only change, and then bring it back in here for signature and for the official copy. Okay.
It is critical to the operation that all parties, including mine rescue teams, participate in providing information pertinent to the event. This scenario shows how the information from the rescue team was significant and critical to improving the results. Having air readings from a better location is important and was well received by the command center. The process to adapt the plan and change it accordingly was properly done, and the information from the rescue team captain served to improve the situation. The command center will continue to operate in such fashion. One critical aspect is to have persons available to replace command officials as the operation continues. A replacement system of personnel needs to be established early in the event, as the situation may last for several days, and personnel will wear out after a period of time. Having fresh personnel is critical to the success of the operation, and to avoid making mistakes due to becoming exhausted. There are times when team captains will determine that performing the assignment they've been given may result in excessive danger to their team. Captains are trained to evaluate situations and conditions to ensure that the safety of their team is paramount. Should a captain report to the command center that performing a task will result in danger to his team, changes to the task should be made immediately to resolve his concerns. Communicate with the captain to hear his concerns and what problems the team has encountered. Ask if he has any suggestions to resolve his concerns. Consider changes to the plan by the parties in the command center and discuss those changes with the captain. Once the situation is resolved, rewrite an addendum or new plan to identify the changes with all parties in agreement. Working together to communicate and resolve problems builds a good team concept and creates trust among all parties. It's important the mine rescue teams trust the command center to make good decisions for their safety, and it's also important that the command center trusts the teams to work safely and not perform duties that may endanger the teams.